got a good loud voice. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for making your way through the rain and the cold and everything else to get here. My name's Judith. I'm here to facilitate, and I'm always really happy to be at these meetings because this is what democracy looks like, and I love it. So thank you for being here. We're going to have a conversation tonight, hear some concerns that I know people have, get some questions answered, and talk about some ways to work together. I believe that's pretty much our agenda. I'm correct. Now I want to notice on your papers that you have on the back, there's some community agreements. So listen, believe, and reflect. The believe I know is, you're to believe what you believe. Give, seek, and receive feedback with grace. Speak your own truth with compassion. Listen to understand, don't listen to respond. Use I statements. Assume best positive intentions. Make space, take space. So if you're someone like me who likes to talk a lot and I process by talking, think about backing up a little bit so people who are more introverted, need a little more encouragement and some space, can come forward, because we really want to hear from everybody. And I'll help with that. That's part of my job. Attack the problem, not the person. Accept non-closure for the moment. And respect the facilitator. And what I mean by that is, it's my job to try to have the most productive meeting we can have tonight. I want as many voices to be able to talk who feel like that's important to them to do so. So if I ask somebody, could you cut it short? Could you, anything like that, I really appreciate it if you're willing to work with me to make the meeting as positive as possible. Do those all sound reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Everybody agree? Good. Great. And my commitment is try to have the best meeting possible. So we'll do some introductions, and then I'll come back up and talk more to you.
Thank you, Judith. Hi, everyone. My name is Laudie Porter. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the City Shelter System at the City of Portland. Just for transparency's sake, we are recording this meeting. None of you are on camera. We're recording us so that I can post it to our Reedway page afterwards for anyone who was unable to make our meeting today. If anyone has any questions about that, I'm happy to answer.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh. Speak louder.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was just saying, we are recording tonight's meeting. None of you are on camera. They can't hear any of you. This is just so folks who couldn't attend tonight's meeting could get the same information we are providing all of you tonight. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I really appreciate you being here and investing in your community in this way. I'm Brandy Westerman. I use she, her pronouns. I am about 3.5 months into my role with the City of Portland as the Humanitarian Operations Director. My background is in humanitarian relief and response. I have about 25 years of experience in that space, but I am new to working here with the city and working with government. Jake, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everybody, Jake Dornblazer, he, him pronouns. I am the program coordinator with the city's sheltering services. So, nice to meet you.
Your turn.
My turn. Great.
Gotta speak loud.
My name is Hendrik Propulsion. I'm with the Mayor's Office. I'm a policy and outreach advisor. And my goal is to share a little bit about the big picture of what's happening behind our Safe Rest Villages and our task sites, and ultimately why we're here tonight. And are we doing that right now? Jumping in?
Laudie, did you get introduced? Did people hear you? Okay, sorry.
Additionally, we do have Urban Alchemy staff on the way to this meeting. They are en route currently. I'm sorry that they are a little delayed, but we will introduce them when they get here.
Thank you.
Want me to take over? Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit of information about the Reedway Safe Rest Village and our plans to increase the capacity of that village. And then we'll hear a bit from my colleagues And then we want to reserve the majority of the time to hear from all of you. Our hope for tonight is that we have an open conversation and that we come away with some good ideas from those of you living here in the community on how we can make this increase in capacity as successful as possible, both for the participants who are residing at the village as well as for the surrounding community. So that is our intent. The truth is, I think we all know, we're all here in Portland. I've been in Portland more than 30 years. I think many of you have similar long experiences. We are in a bit of a crisis, right? We are facing a crisis here in Portland, and we need to act. And it's not going to be perfect, and we know that, right? The truth of the matter is we have opened a number of shelters. We've increased 500 shelter beds in the last 6 months alone, and it's not enough. We recognize we need more shelter capacity. There is more demand than there is supply currently to help manage our way through this current crisis. And so we are looking, along with our colleagues at the county, the Joint Office of Homeless Services, for any and all strategies to improve high quality, high service sheltering. And so that's part of why we're here tonight. The Reedway SRV Village site currently has about 60 shelter units. These are the tiny home units. They're provided with heat, electricity, a private locking door, on-site or hygiene facilities, pet areas, laundry, and services to support people with case management to help them kind of move forward in their journeys. That plot of land has space for additional tiny homes, and so we are looking to expand to somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 120. And I can't give you an exact number, and I know people are really interested to know that. The factors that will feed into making that decision is related to the capacity at site, ensuring that there is space for those wraparound services, including hygiene stations and similar needs, office spaces, case management, meeting spaces, those kinds of things. So we're working together with an architect to look at some of the options for that expansion. We don't have all the answers tonight. We will share what we know, but we don't know everything because we are coming to you early in this process. We're at a phase right now where we're reviewing options, we're taking in input. We don't have a final plan, so we're hoping to get your input into making that final plan as we move forward. We're here to listen primarily, and that's what we're going to spend most of this evening doing rather than speaking. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Hendrik.
Great, let me just line myself up. All right, thanks everyone. I just wanted to share a little bit about the big picture perspective of our shelter sites as a whole. When you look around Portland, I think we can all agree that things are not going all that well when it comes to the number of people that are houseless, the numbers of derelict RV and other vehicles that are parked on our streets that don't have license plates. And there's a twofold challenge there. It's one, we all don't want to see somebody in a situation that is not ideal, to live out on the streets, to not have a source of food, shelter, or support services that are nearby. And then also for us residents that are living in neighborhoods, we see people that need help, and then often, it's tough for us to see, but there often are things like crime that can happen around those situations. And so our goal is to do something about it. And we're here and you're here because I think we're all on the same page that our goal is that we need to do something about it. We can't just wait to see what happens. We don't want to see over 6,000 homeless people turn into over 10,000 homeless people. We don't want to see the problem grow any worse than it is, and so that's what we're trying to do here. And for sites like Reedway to be successful, we need two things, because they're really expensive. We wouldn't be doing these things if we didn't think that they think and already see proof that these kinds of situations are helping. So we need to create a safe place where people can come off from the street, some people that have been chronically homeless for 3+ years. We're creating a space where they can come, decompress, kind of level out a little bit, get some time, so that they can start enacting the services. That's not day one for people. People need to get somewhere where they're safe, warm, and know that they have support around them before they can start to consider what next steps are. And so that's kind of the idea behind these sites, is let's create that for them. And then let's engage. Let's offer services, have medical units that come to these sites to give medical service. Connect them with services to get IDs, potentially birth certificates, what people need to start thinking about what a next step could look like, and then ultimately transition people into stable long-term housing. We don't necessarily want people to come and stay in these sites for 6 months, a year. What we'd love to see is give people time and a place so that they can get what they need, get in the right mindset, and then take the next step. The second part of the site to be successful is engagement with the neighborhood, with you. So in sites that we have currently running, one site that I'm particularly familiar with because I work with my coworker on our Clinton Triangle site a lot, there's a really healthy neighborhood and a good neighbor agreement where folks meet multiple times. When they first started, it was twice a month, and now it's, as things are going well, those meetings, I think, are continuing twice a month. It might taper off to once a month, but it's an invaluable resource to have community members who see what's going on, can provide feedback to this whole team so that we can say, hey, we have connection to our Street Services Coordination Center. We can help engage with folks that are near our Reedway site or in the neighborhood to see if they're ready to join us to get services. Cleanup, has anyone here ever been to a problem solvers group? Is anyone familiar with that term? So there's a problem solvers group that includes Lentz, J District, and Montebilla. So anyone can join those as well. And it's where we hear problems in real time and then we figure out ways to address them. I mean, there's not always a perfect answer, but it's a mechanism that we hear you and then we can take steps to ameliorate tough situations. So there will be a chance to sign up and provide your name and email if you want to be involved with that kind of good neighbor agreement or good neighbor commitment, a couple different ways to call it. And we hope to engage with everyone long term. But that's the idea here. I'll stop because I can keep talking, but we'd love to hear from you at this point.
Yeah, so if you just raise your hand if you want to speak, and I might repeat what you're saying if it sounds quiet so that making sure everyone can hear.
My name is Nicole Campbell. I live on 103rd and Reedway. And in the span of time since the Safe Rest Village has been open, the noise floor of the neighborhood has gone way up. A lot of the comings and goings will happen at 2 in the morning, for example. And there's a lot of wiggle room in the middle for opportunity, I should say, to make the users of the space clearly aware of how to be good neighbors. Today, I took another video of somebody walking down the street with the boom box going at, 100 decibels, and it's an employee at the Safe Rest Village. And when I said, hey, can you turn that off or turn it down? And he's like, what for? It's what they're made for. So I really want to see this reciprocal respect. We're trying really hard. I work at the Port of Portland. I understand we have many, many industrial lands and mitigation sites and things that are super expensive to rebuild, where we're trying to come to humanitarian solutions, and I absolutely am not NIMBY about this at all. I just really want to support, but I would love to see far more attention paid to the immediate half mile around each of the locations to make sure that they're looking at the increase in incidents of illegal camping that happened. That was the first worry, and it happened right away. And people literally camping right outside our homes. pedestrians on the street in their cars. So we just want to feel like the responsibility that you have taken on to have this space available to these folks is well monitored. And it's monitored by employees who are also in full agreement and understanding of what it's like to be a good neighbor. So it's really easy to get crusty about it and upset because we just don't know where we stand a lot of the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate your comments. And these are the things we're not going to see unless they come through these kinds of conversations. So I really appreciate you raising those issues and that experience. One thing that I will say, as we look at the larger sites, with the larger sites, we bring outreach. And that means outreach workers who are working around the border of the site to engage with folks outside of the village itself, to kind of work with people to be good neighbors and to be respectful in that way, to help kind of discourage any sort of additional camping that's close to the village, and to help connect people to services if needed. So I really appreciate what I've heard from you, and I think that's the kind of conversation we want to definitely bring into the good neighbor discussions.
Sorry.
Quick question. I understood we were supposed to have a number where we could reach Urban Alchemy when we had issues, and that number doesn't do anything but go to voicemail and they never return calls.
Yes.
Question for this woman over here. Did you have the tents in your neighborhood before the Safe Rest Village?
We're worried more about the car camping that's happening. There weren't very many tents. I don't think, I've only lived in the neighborhood for less than 2 years, not just about 2 years. So I'm not really sure. I can't really answer that question because this came into being within the first year of me living there.
You're more concerned about the what?
Well, we have more incidents of car camping or like
car
RVs
camping, okay.
that'll camp on the side.
Are you getting any kind of, have you reached out to the city with these concerns, and have you got any kind of response from the city?
We're condo mates, so to speak. We're adjoining townhouses, and these two have been on the phone constantly.
Hit or miss. So sometimes there's response. Oftentimes it goes longer than it should, in my opinion. Especially when it is directly linked to the Safe Rest Village. Like just one example, individual living there for months now, had a trailer. That trailer was abandoned in front of our homes. Mm-hmm. It was collecting additional garbage. People were stealing from it. Mm-hmm.
Drug dealing?
Not that I've witnessed.
We can't say for sure, you know.
But what I can say is the incidents of tents that I've seen or have heard from other neighbors that have been there for a while, I can't tell you that it's increased or decreased, but the tent sites that are still in the neighborhoods are still there with the Safe Rest Village there. Do they come and go? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? They get cleared and they come right back. But the Safe Rest Village isn't making an immediate impact that I've seen to tents in the area.
But so how would you rate your response from the city when you call up these complaints?
Clearly not very good.
No, I mean,
Crickets.
I don't know.
So I'm kind of wondering where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the same problem that they do,
Uh-huh.
minus the Safe Rest Village. And I've got the RVs, I've got the tents, I've got the people living in their cars in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's unacceptable.
Right, so I think a lot of people here are concerned about a lot of those same things. Have you been reaching out to the city?
All the time.
I'm assuming, and you don't feel like the response you're getting has been helpful?
We're not getting any response.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank
not just, you know, when an RV's in our neighborhood for months, when they wouldn't be allowed in the West Hills, Alameda, Eastmoreland for a week, it's unacceptable. We just want to be treated with respect and the same way as every other neighborhood gets treated. That's all we're asking for.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to let you say one thing, but head back in, and then this gentleman in the front row.
Just kind of a direct response. So, you know, in that little Reedway pocket, I would say the large sites are the one right next to the Boys and Girls Club, the one right on Foster and 205, and then the one that's just got cleared by the Franz Bakery, right? That one's always kind of been there. And, you know, those are 3 that surround the Safe Rest Village that are
Constantly full.
never gonna go away. Despite, you know, raising those flags to the city. And literally within a few weeks of this Safe Rest Village going up, we had someone setting up a tent in our backyard saying, oh, I'm going to the Safe Rest Village. Called the police, you know, they came out, I would say 7 or 8 hours later. This little one's out here saying, you can't stay here, right? And we're getting a lot of pushback from that, from the individual. Safe Rest Village took their time to get engaged, but it's, if you're going there, stay there. You're 2 blocks away. Why are you
Well,
here?
the problem is that it's putting a lot of people at safety at risk. When we have to consistently handle and talk to and deal with people that are totally disrespectful.
Thank you. Okay, so what do we, I think, and we kind of gathered that. I really appreciated your sort of good neighbor comments, and it can be really challenging to do that. Thank you. You were next.
Well, I was gonna say, I've got good response from Mike Cripps, who is parking enforcement for the city of Portland. If you want his number, I have it.
Yes, please.
I talked to him today.
Okay, yes.
Texted
Absolutely.
him because of Knack Street, some of you were at New Hope Church, and it's grown even bigger. But they were out today, tagged the vehicles again, because of the weather, they were to be removed last week. So now, next week, they're supposed to come in and remove them.
Good.
But I text him regularly. It may take 3 months because they have a city to cover.
Yeah.
But they do come out, tag, and they do clean them. I'm not saying it's gonna stay forever, because they come back, but they do clean them out.
Yeah.
Yes, you have your.
Well, I know exactly the spots you're talking about, by the Boys and Girls Club, by Foster and 205. I don't go down by the Franz Bakery, I know where it is though. But you have to ask yourself a question. Why do they keep coming back there?
Yeah.
What are they benefiting from being there? And can you guys find a lot somewhere close by where they can park in? Where it's, for some reason, they want to be in this area, can we find a spot for them to park in? And still be at a place where they want to be? Just asking the question.
Have thoughts?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. I mean, I think one is that that issue is recognized, and there's several neighborhoods across the city that are managing through the same challenge. This is much of the thought around the North Portland site, the temporary alternative shelter site that is in the process of being developed now to focus on RV parking, and the wraparound services similar to any one of our shelters, you know, ensuring that those folks are supported when they're in those places, and they're supported to get the services they need and hopefully move on to that next step in their journey. Unfortunately, it does take some time to develop these sites, and that's what's underway.
I've lived on near Harold Street for 40-some years, 111th and Harold. This is the first year in like 40 years I've seen the plot that belongs to the city of Portland. Maybe you know where the sandbags are available on that corner. This is the first time in 40 years I've seen them actually cut all the blackberries and shrubbery on that huge piece of land. And I'm wondering, does the city have some plans? They're going to expand into that area? I don't know. I asked my neighborhood association, they have no clue about why the city is suddenly making that land leveled out. So I guess just a question.
I don't have any information to share on that unless,
We're only expanding within the fence line of the.
Yeah, but the city does own property, a lot of places that could be used.
Yeah, and there's a I'm sorry. I feel that enough of the meetings to say that, you'd be so surprised what has to be okay, right? There's an environmental look that has to happen. It can't have too much of a slant. There was one place that looked like it was going to be great for a while, and it just had too much of a slope to be able to support the pods, and so that's just, sorry, I feel like I shouldn't
It's
jump in on
been
that.
an interesting learning curve since I joined the city of Portland. One of the things that I learned right off the bat is just how difficult it is to find the plots of land that can be used for that purpose and then to develop them.
And I've got you next,
Yeah, my name is
and then you, okay.
Phil. My wife and I, we live on Ellis Street, 104th and Ellis, last road, the end of the dead end street. We're on the north side of that gravel pit. It's right there.
We can see the foosball table from our front porch.
Yeah, I mean, we could really, like, it's just right there. And, like,
Yeah.
upstairs, we look into it. And we're both, really appreciative of the program. I think that it's necessary. We really want to make sure, too, that there's a lot of thought put into how we want the city to take responsibility in making sure that the neighborhood that you're moved into is taken care of as well. We understand that the goal is to take care of people who live in safe rest villages, but also to make sure that we're safe and that the kids on our street are safe. We bought our house in 2019. We love the dead end street because all the kids in the neighborhood come down and play on our basketball hoop. Just a couple months ago, 3 months ago now, giant RV came in and parked at the end of the street and was dumped. We called it in, stayed there for about 2 months, it seems like.
Then we had people coming over the gravel pit trying to get into that RV and going back over the gravel pit. I work from home, so I can see it while I'm sitting there doing work. So it was attracting people who, if they were meant to be there, they would have walked through the front doors, but they didn't walk through the front doors. They're finding back ways, which is our
And that's
neighbor's
historically
yard.
been an issue too. Behind that gravel pit, at the end of our street, people have historically, before we moved in, our neighbors tell us, used that, there's a path there, and they could use it to get back to Beggar's Tip while they took refuge. And so there's worry that, what we want to know that the city's making sure that it's going to be secured, that there's going to be, secure boundaries around it. So there's an entryway and, one entry, one exit, whatever. So that way people who are using the services, people, who they are, not just anybody coming in to see their friends. And also just thinking about, we moved in, like I said, 2019. We're also kind of seeing this fluctuation in housing prices that's happening across the city in general, nationwide. But there's also this fear, and probably pretty valid too, that something like this can also impact, if it's not taken care of well, impact the housing values around us. And there's a lot of people who lived here a lot longer than us, who their home has been passed down for generations, or it would be a shame to have something like this really impact the economic support of the neighbors as well. Some things thought about, ways to just make it. We've talked about sound and security. Also, just like visually trying to, how can you support the beautification of the neighborhood? I mean, planting of trees around, or getting volunteers in the program maybe to help support with cleanups. We've seen some people cleaning up around the neighborhood already, but even like the Springwater Corridor or Beggar's Tip, they used to be, from what I hear, I've done Springwater Corridor, and it's been really safe and nice in the past. Beggar's Tip, I've known now as just only being like a dangerous place I wouldn't want to go to.
Right.
And I feel like there's opportunity for the city to come in and take responsibility in some of these areas, and then make the neighborhood better and safer, and have everybody in the community really begin to take notice. I think that there's supports there that I think could be done.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your feedback.
Hi, my name is Melissa. We live in Reedway, a block from the Safest Village. And again, saying we really appreciate the work. We're just here to give you the perspective of the neighbor that is right next to the Saver's Village. I know that we are all here with the same interest, but we're right next to it. And I mean, I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm a teacher. I go to school, and we usually wake up around 2 or 3 in the morning with, again, as Nicole and you were saying, the sound. It's very loud. We can hear the suitcases hitting the gravel, people getting into arguments, going to the Saver's Village. I walk my dogs at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I've seen gentlemen in the bushes next to our house doing who knows. It's really...
What did you say? Going to the bathroom?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you
Doing-
see all that.
Yeah, right next to our house. Walking my dogs, I don't even feel safe walking my dogs in my own street, because I've seen people walking to the Saver's Village with no regulations with their dogs, like they don't have leashes. They poop on our streets too. I'm walking my dogs and I come with poop inside my house, right? And I'm trying to be responsible. I'm trying to be a neighbor that picks up, after the dogs. And it's really sad for me to walk on the street that I'm trying to clean, and whoever and whenever comes and they just, throw their trash on our street, throw their poop on our street. When you try to ask them politely to stop and, be aware of their surroundings, we just hear responses like, why am I gonna do it? Or seeing the people that is working there, that they're really nice, they're really great people, but I've noticed that sometimes they just drive 60, 70 on our street too. Because we know their cars, we've seen their cars, we have talked to them, and it's just it's not fair, especially when you have kids, when you have dogs, when you're just trying to, live peacefully. We work really hard. We wake up really early in the morning, and we come home really late at night, and it's just really unfortunate and really sad to go home to a place where you don't feel safe, you don't feel comfortable. And I completely understand the work. I really I appreciate it, because I know that these people feel safe there, because we have heard from them. They have said to us it feels so nice to come to a comfy bed and have a place to live. And I think about it when we had the storm. I was like, I'm so happy that these people, has a place to stay, but I want to feel safe too. It's both parts, right? We're giving, and we're giving a lot. So we expect a lot in return. And I'm not asking for a lot, we're not asking for anything more than being respectful, having to be a little more clean too, if it's possible. People that works there to also commit to the area, not just I'm working there, I'm just gonna do whatever I want when I'm leaving the Saver's Village. Because as soon as they leave the Saver's Village, they drive 60 on Reedway, 60 miles per hour. They cross our stop signs. They're not looking for kids. They're not looking for animals. Like, we had I witnessed a dog being killed on our street a few months ago, because they're driving like maniacs.
These are people are connected to the Saver's Village, or just the speeders in general?
It's speeders in general, but you add that factor of,
Right.
We have 60 people plus staff that has cars, right? Most of them have cars, and they're just taking care of their space. But as soon as they leave their space, there's no responsibility more than the space. And as soon as they leave, I don't care. But we care. We live there. We hear things. We notice things. We see people going through our trash, right? And it's not just I'm going through your trash. I'm also going to make a mess with your trash. And if I talk to you, I'm tiny, right? And I don't feel comfortable having those conversations. And I don't feel comfortable telling you to put a leash on your dog when I know you're not going to do it, and possibly my dog and your dog can get into a fight, and that's so unnecessary. That's just my perspective on a person that lives right next to me.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. I'm going to let some response, and we have someone new to introduce, and then we'll keep getting back.
Should we do the introduction first? Respond?
I'd like to respond first because then
Okay.
it'll segue into an
Okay,
intro.
go ahead.
Maybe I can help with that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll let you speak to the company stuff. First and foremost, everything that you're saying is excellent feedback. So thank you. We're hearing it for sure. Super important. This is gonna be one moment where I get to really pitch the good neighbor agreement, because what we're doing right now, you would be able to do with myself and this team once a month, maybe twice a month. As things ramp up, we figure that out together as a group. We say, this is how many meetings we want to do. Can we do virtually or in person? Maybe there's a balance. And it's an opportunity for, in real time, the mayor's office, the coordinated team here, the shelter services coordinated team, to all hear this and say, okay, there are some things we can address ASAP. There are some things we maybe can't address right away, but we can explain why. And that's the whole point. So anybody that's interested in those kinds of meetings, at the end, come up, engage with us. You can put your name and email if you'd like, and be included in those conversations because they're so valuable. So first, if you take anything from this meeting, I want you to take that knowledge that we are committed to be part of this process long term, not just set up a site and then you don't hear from us again. So that's that opportunity. Just a very kind of overview, I just want to share how hard it is with the complicated legal system, the city, county sort of funding challenges. So just sharing this so you know that even when we have these meetings, sometimes we're going to say, hey, we can't do this tomorrow, or we can't do this until we hear back from the Supreme Court. So we have our time, manner, place where we wanted to make it essentially illegal to camp in non-camping areas around the city. But we got an injunction that says you can't do that because if people don't have somewhere safe to go, if we can't provide places, you can't enforce that. So that's something that we're working on right now. It's in the process. And then once we can move forward, and we can already on certain sites where we have to go check out a site, we have to rank it based off of a whole bunch of different variables like drug paraphernalia, extreme amounts of trash, X, Y, there's all these variables. So once we can rank a site, whether it's a tent or an RV, and say, hey, it's breaking this threshold of over 50 out of 100. If we want to clear that site, we have to post and give them 72 hours. After that point, then we engage in that process and say, hey, would you like somewhere else to stay? There's an open bed at a site for you. And sometimes people say no, and that's their right. And then often you might see those people in your neighborhood again 5 days later. And then that process has to go all over again. And that's super challenging for this work, because I think our intent is all on the same page, but sometimes it's really, really tough to get people to even take services, even when they're available. And right now we're trying to make more sites available because that's a limit as well. I'm just sharing this so you kind of get a little bit of insight as to what we're trying to do and some of the stuff that we're struggling with. But our intent is to bring value and help transition people, bring the numbers lower so we have fewer people in neighborhoods. And this is across the city. I hate to say it, Lentz is not necessarily unique in the fact that, I'm in North Portland. I also have a lot of these challenges myself, and they're frustrating. So I just want to share that, and I think this is a good opportunity to introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about Urban Alchemy.
Okay, my name is Jeff Dickey. I'm the Director of Operations for Urban Alchemy. We came up from California to manage homeless camps around the city of Portland. I don't want you to feel like you're a hostage in your neighborhood with bad behavior going on. So what we have going is we have our staff, and they can come out and address issues. In the streets, we can also address issues with our residents if we know what the issues are. And some of the other sites, I've given out my phone number and I've given out my email address. And residents have emailed me photographs or videos of malbehavior going on around the camps. And then if those folks are indeed residents of our village, and I don't confirm or deny if they are, we will address the issues with them. And typically what we found is that the areas surrounding these villages improves considerably. So a lot of the sites that they're picking out, like Hendricks was saying, has a lot of homeless issues, and there's a lot of nonsense going on around your houses. When these villages are built and we kind of take over and start monitoring the neighborhoods, those issues kind of resolve over time. So I will leave my phone number, my email address for anybody who wants to contact me that has those kind of issues, but I do need photographic evidence. I do need like license plate numbers or cars so I can see that they actually belong to the village. If I can make a connection, I will have my staff engage those residents and make sure that, and try to resolve those issues with them. So they're aware that the neighborhood is mad at them and they need to change their behaviors.
So I just want to say you got here a little bit late, and
Yes.
before you got here, quite a few people shared some issues they've had with staff as well. And Brandy took notes, so I'm assuming you can, is that okay? Do you feel like you don't have to reiterate what they were, but I wanted to make sure that it was clear that there were a few things with staff that were problematic. Okay. And I promised Sharon. Well, gosh, I was so close, I had most of the letters.
Hi, I'm Sharon Dahl, and I live on 105th and Flayvale, and I'm going on 33 years living in the neighborhood. We are people that we keep our yard up, we have flowers, trees, decorate things nice, and I've seen it all. Things that I've never ever thought that I would see. I grew up over in the Monteville area, and just Knapp Street is my biggest concern. It just really bothers me that I have to do this when I go. I look down there and I don't go down at night, and during the day when they move back after 5 days, there'll be 4 or 5, and if in the other house there's 20, then there's motorcycles and there's kids running all around and garbage, and they're going to the bathroom, they're peeing, they're pooping, there's messes all over. We even have boats down there every month. And so it's so overwhelming. And then Mark has friends, well, he talks to Greg, and he's down there once a month they clean, and it's not even clean, maybe 4 days, 5 at tops, and they're back. And these people are ugly. If you go down there and you say, hey, can you turn your music down? Well, you effing this and you effing that. And, you know, it's just like, oh, well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So I'm Catholic and I believe in helping people, but I've really gotten to be a tough lately because I have give my heart out and help people, but I'm just to the point is enough. I don't think this crowding bit, I'm not in for all these, I don't know, like you say, in the city, put all these little pods all over. I think it's better if there's a bigger area where you say there's like a little village. Like here's the mayor, and here's the janitor, and this is our streets, and have a little area with their common area, and they would learn how to take care of per se, their type of neighborhood. But I see all this the last 10 years, and the different people that are our governors and mayors and stuff, it's just, you know, you think it's gonna get better, and it's like, holy crap. And my husband, he got to be on TV last month, and that was pretty good. He got to have Angelica Thornton come out to our house the day before his birthday. He was so pleased that he finally, after a year, got somebody's attention to come out. And they gave him about 15 minutes in our front yard, and then she went down to Knapp Street, and she asked a couple people, sir, if we can give you housing and food and clothing and a little pod, and you go, hell no, my name's Q, and I like getting high and laying out here. She interviewed 2 people, and they said the same thing, and I think, you know, everybody was like, oh my God. And you hope, but there's something big's gotta happen to make it more, because we're like 10 years behind time. It's gotta be something that can actually not, oh, we put in 20 pods, but we have 3,000 people on the street. I see that, and my heart sinks. You're just like you're paddling, and you're not going anywhere.
And it's only gonna get worse.
And so we have, I'd like to get back here, but you haven't spoken yet, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, I'm Joanne with One Strong Housing Team, making Lentz a home for all our neighbors. So I guess my concern right now is that I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, and I'm hoping that when you do the community committees, that they will also include the unhoused neighbors and also Urban Alchemy staff, because right now this seems like a very limited, rather gatekeeping meeting, and the gatekeeping is really bothering me. I think a lot of the problem that we're finding is Lentz is, and I live near Lentz School, so I'm pretty local also. We're on 100th near Holgate. And we did find a lot of influx of more houseless too since the Safe Rest Village. Even before we knew it opened, we did not even have the courtesy of being told it was going to be open. We had to learn about it through KHW.
2 thumbs down.
Was that we noticed as neighbors that, gee, around Lentz School there was a lot of more houseless coming in. And that's on a safe route to school as well too, which is an issue. I guess our concern is that the city is placing these villages, and they're trying to gaslight us into thinking we're NIMBYs and uncompassionate people in areas with very few to no resources. So it's Lentz is a neighborhood of poor working class people. The homeowners here really don't have a lot of money. It's young couples doing starter homes. It's older people who have been here for generations, for whom their home is their only generational wealth. They're already burdened with Lentz high property taxes, and our property taxes are disproportionately high. They're burdened with flood insurance if they're living in that area, because that's in a floodplain. So we have a bunch of people, including ourselves, my family, who are resource stretched, and we're bringing in more people. And I know a big issue that came up with LNLA, with Lentz Strong Housing Team, was we really needed to have a preference policy that people who were living in Lentz unhoused should get first dibs on being moved into the Safe Rest Village. That was a big deal for us. And what we did find too is that since they had all these resets and sweeps, more people are coming out to Lentz. And again, we're resource stressed. We do not have a local library. The 2 not so local libraries have been closed for remodeling. It became a big deal during the heat spell, became a big deal during the recent winter issue. Our free fridges are empty now because and the big issue too that people were saying too, because we even have a problem around Lentz School, is finding people in our driveways looking through our recyclables. And we said way back when, and Jake knows that too, and Laudie, that we don't have the recyclable capacity to really provide a second income for people who have no income. Most of our neighbors are either recycling their bottles themselves or they're giving to other families who might need it. So we're finding more what euphemistically we call wandering folks, but it's people who are just wandering, and it makes people nervous because they're looking up the driveways, they're in your driveway. You know, people are telling me that at 3 o'clock in the morning their lights are going on and there's somebody in their yard claiming they're looking for recyclables. And it's a drag. And we also had dog problems too. I thought it was just unleashed, large, unsocialized dogs that were just wandering around too. So I would really, I guess my main point though is that we're resource strapped. And it would be nice to see in neighborhoods like Laurelhurst that have more resources. I don't know why people would want to live in Lentz if they're houseless. We don't have a grocery store. We don't have anything here, other than the fact that we really don't have any type of enforcement, and people don't care about Lentz. So that's why they come here, because they know that they probably won't be hassled at all. But it's really tragic, and when phrasing and messaging to people, it gets really offensive when you're talking to poor and working class people who've always taken care of each other way before the city put their nose into anything, to be told that we need to be compassionate, because we are deeply compassionate people. And it really is offensive to go and hear all the time that we need to be more compassionate than we already are. We either are living the humanitarian crisis, or when we walk out our door, we see it in action. So.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry you're getting that message. I don't know where you're getting it from, but I've facilitated these meetings for many decades, and I've done a lot of good neighbor agreements. And it is completely reasonable to want to be safe, to have a livable neighborhood, and also be compassionate. So I'm sorry that you're receiving that message, because.
And then I guess my last thing would be about this good neighbor agreement too, is that we should have had an introduction to Urban Alchemy when they opened, not 7 months later, now that you're talking about expansion. That was rather disrespectful as well. And again, we're in a space here where it's all housed neighbors talking, and that feels a little cringy to me as well too, because we really would need to talk. And if we had, I'm not sure how Urban Alchemy works. I was told that you all work quite differently from the other Safe Rest Village providers or temporary alternative shelter providers, and that the city needs to say no. Everybody needs to follow the same criteria. So when we asked, could we have a meet and greet, we were told absolutely not, because Urban Alchemy, we were told by the city that Urban Alchemy does not operate that way. And it's like, no, if we want to meet and greet, and we're the neighbors, and we want to do like Menlo Park did with Cultivate Initiatives, because once people talk to each other, then they can, you know, but we're talking shush about people that we're not sitting at the same table with, and that really bothers me, particularly with staff and everything else, because it's like we're reporting to somebody higher.
Thank you for that feedback. Okay, I think, yes, and do you mind if I get people who haven't spoken yet? So the person right in front of you, and then the person right in front, then you and the whole line. Sorry, right. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you.
My name is Crystal. I'm the founder and executive director of PDX Saints Lab. So I'm kind of just to piggyback on what Joanne says about serving the actual houseless people in this community. That's mainly been my concern, is that one, we run 3 events a week in this community. Our numbers have skyrocketed. We're doing double the amount of meals. This morning we served 177 breakfasts. And I wanted to change a little bit the narrative that I keep hearing. It sounds like we're talking about houseless people as if like they're rodents, like they're scattering through the neighborhood and digging through our trashes. This morning, the #1 service that we provided was people asking for coordinated housing assessments. The majority of people do not want to be out here living like this. And I'm not gonna negate the fact that we do have, you know, this element of people that aren't really ready to do something, but the majority of people are. I'd be really interested in having a working partnership with Urban Alchemy in this community. We've been doing work for 7 years. I know everybody along that trail by name. I know their family members are on my Facebook. They call me when they haven't heard from them. We have a deep connected relationship in this community. The other thing is I'd be interested in talking to the county about funding for our organization. We're actually getting ready to open a day center where we'll be serving 5 days a week, bringing people from outside of this community into this community and doubling the impact on our small nonprofit organization that's only funded on health dollars right now. It would be extremely helpful if we can work together with the city. We want to see homelessness end in this community. My family, I'm a 4th generation person in East Portland and Lentz in particular. I want to see this change, but we have to all work together to make that happen.
Thank you. Okay. I have to go. Thank you for being here.
I would really love to have some stats to brag about. I know the housing model has shown to be effective, but I want to see how this one is effective and to be able to brag about that. I think that would be so fun to have in the back of my pocket. And I am curious if counseling is one of the services being provided at this facility, or if that's maybe like the next step after this location. And then one odd little niche comment with the expansion. There has been an increase of coyote incidences with them coming out of that area. We found a lot more dead cats in our front yard. We had 5 babies born right next to ours, and we hear them howling at night, which was very fun with our indoor-outdoor cat. So it's keeping in mind with the expansion of how that will affect the wildlife in the area as well. And if counseling is, I'll go back to that question, is counseling a service offered there?
We asked other providers to come in and provide services to the site, yes.
So mental health counseling?
Yes.
Love it.
Before we get, Hendrik, I'm coming next. This is the sign up for the Good Neighbor Agreement, just thinking that some people might need to leave. If you're interested, you don't have to make a life commitment on this piece of paper right away. Hendrik will be in touch. I've done a lot of Good Neighbor Agreements and I found them to be really successful and people like work together on them. So I'm just gonna pass it around in case you wanna sign up before you go. Back to you.
And just one thing about stats, that is absolutely a goal, is to capture that data. I brought some data from the Clinton Triangle site. I know it's not the exact same, but just to share, as of January this year, that site has served 329 individuals, 70 have been housed, 47 have been matched to housing and are just waiting to move until it clears up. And the average length of stay per person has been about 89 days. So I just want to share that because that ultimately is the goal here as well, is to get people in, stabilized, service, and then into housing. It's not as easy as it sounds because some people need more time, and of course every person has their own journey, and sometimes they come back and they tumble, and that's fine. But like, we do have a model that we're trying to incorporate here that will ultimately take people that are unhappy living on the streets into a safe place to live. Just want to share that.
I just want to speak really quickly to some of the statistics and the requests that you had there around some of that data. So we do have a data dashboard that's up on the site. It's updated quarterly. It's about to be updated with the new.
We'll probably see it mid-February
Okay.
with the new data. It's just, we moved, Urban Alchemy specifically, moved a lot of people into housing this last quarter. And we just are trying to make sure it's all correct and everything. We would hate to put out anything and it not be right. So probably mid-February, sorry.
Yeah. And I will say that the past few months, the team with Urban Alchemy, as well as our partners across the city, have been very active in supporting folks and moving into housing. And so, while I don't have confidence in the precise number, we're talking about dozens of people in the past few months who have moved on to housing from that site specifically.
Excuse me, but what is Urban Alchemy? I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so Urban Alchemy is a grassroots organization. We took a different approach in our hiring model in our organization. We hire people with lived experience or maybe out of prisons. And people that can relate to folks on the streets, people that can communicate with folks on the streets and not be afraid or feel uncomfortable in that interaction. And so what we found is that our staff are making these connections and actually helping folks because they have found pathways out of their homelessness or out of their drug addiction or out of their whatever they were messed up in. And now they're sharing their information with our residents. And so we're creating these processes that is supporting these communities and helping them grow in a positive direction and not stay stagnated on the streets and their trauma. If that makes sense?
Just clarification, you're a contractor with the city running the Safe Rest Village, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's
So, yeah, we are not standoffish either. We will communicate with anybody.
They're the service provider.
Okay.
Did I get all the hands? I think so. Okay, okay, now I'm going to go here and then, thank you for your patience. I think I'm going to.
I said enough, but yeah.
Just a question for everyone. Okay, do you guys have professionally trained mental health and drug counselors at your facility? And if so, how many hours a week are they there?
So I don't have like on staff a mental health clinician, but I am looking into hiring someone for our site, just for us to have it. But what we do is refer people to other providers within the city. So
I would think that would be probably the most important first step. Is to get.
I just want to say we also have meetings, and we do this mostly with the Clinton Triangle because it's a larger site, and so any site that's larger has this. But we do work with Urban Alchemy to work with other providers as well, like Central City Concern, TPI, Care Oregon, and all. The list goes on. But to bring services that maybe Urban Alchemy doesn't have under their own staffing model to the site. So we do work with others.
We have what we call a care coordination team. So they're on site just to connect folks to housing, to mental health, to addiction services, whatever they need.
I mean, as a general statement, I would say the number one priority is to get the people that need drug counseling and mental health counseling would be the top priority, so that they can, move forward.
So this is a new model, and what older models have shown for congregate shelters is that providing services up front in the congregate shelter doesn't translate to when they get the housing. So there's a housing first model that most people are following, get people into housing, then provide services. Since this is such a new model, the data's not out, and on how effective counseling and addiction services are going to take hold. So, but we are actively engaged in helping our residents find those services, get into them, and move forward, regardless of what the data is showing for the congregate shelters.
So is that your model then?
So our model is housing first. However, we are connecting people to addiction services and mental health services. So our first priority is to get people into housing. That's our first priority. So that's what we're concentrating mainly on, but connecting people to other services is also happening.
What does the data show as the success rate of getting people into housing without getting them drug counseling, mental health counseling?
I don't know statistics off the top of my head.
Are there any out there?
I'm sure there are.
But you don't know.
But we're not part of that process. We manage shelters in homeless tiny home villages, shelter-in-place hotels in San Francisco. We manage tent encampments in different areas.
I understand you're a man. I understand. I'm not really necessarily talking to you. I'm talking to the entire group, including everybody here. Is that I think the priority should be getting them the help they need. Without the help they need, how are they going to be successful?
I can talk about this a little bit. So I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Jake Dornflees. I'm the program coordinator. I also have a master's degree in psychology. I've worked direct service. I also grew up here in Lentz. I was homeless here in Lentz. I went to Job Corps, which is in Springdale Job Corps, which is near Corbett. So very familiar with this space. And so I can talk a little bit about this from a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. And that is that, yes, we need to be able to give the people the resources they need in order to move past whatever barriers they have towards housing. And we need to provide them with basic resources, because if you're focused on food, shelter, water, bathing yourself, using the bathroom, you're not going to move past drug addiction, right? And so it's not which comes first, it's how do we bring as many resources to one place as possible so that people have those options available to them to take advantage of. And that's what we're doing with these sites, is we're trying to work with a lot of different organizations. We have a shelter provider, and we're working with other organizations to bring as many services to these sites as possible so that people have the menu of options to select and move past those barriers, right? So I think that you're totally right. We do need to focus on drug, alcohol, mental health services, and we need to supply those basic amenities, basic things that every single one of us needs just to live every day.
I can't argue with that. I'm just saying that it seems like the focus is on kind of getting these people shelter without giving them what they really need to succeed. That's all.
I think it's a learning curve. I just want to say one thing. There's a houselessness crisis, and there are safe rest villages. They intersect, but they are not one and the same. So I think as a neighborhood, we can be frustrated and upset about the crisis as a whole, while also holding space in our own neighborhoods for safety around the impacts that the safe rest villages have specifically on the neighborhood. So try somehow to see if you can find where they're together and where they're not.
And to kind of go to that point, if you reach out to like Dan Ryan's office or any other, people that are responsible for the Safe Rest Village, the first thing that they will do is say, hey, you're right, it's a bigger issue, reach out to these other, governmental organizations. And it's, not to say that, hey, not our problem, but like they're focused on the Safe Rest Village. And the success of that. And on a part of that, thank you guys both for sharing.
Yes, for what you're doing.
I'm a little less supportive of the Safe Rest Village. I am a little bit more of a NIMBY, if that's the terminology we want to use. Because, Hendrik, the same way that you say, I've got all this stuff in my neighborhood in Northeast, right? We have it in our neighborhood, and then the city has chosen to bring more of it into the neighborhood.
On top of that.
And then you want to double it. And so, to try and not be redundant in a lot of the things that she said, I'm going to just briefly, dogs, not on leashes. The amount of dog shit, too high, too high. And Jeff, I think you've stepped in it and tracked it in your own office. No, seriously. And I've heard that your own people complain about it. And about the people that live there, right? Am I wrong?
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Rogers was like,
Sure. No, but amount of dog poop, too high. Human feces, also too high. Maybe not directly related to the Safe Rest Village, but the people that were camping there saying, hey, we know that the amenities are here and waiting to get in and taking weeks to disperse, right? I think you guys are gonna run into some logistical issues. So recently, off 103rd and Reedway, they've switched the orientation of the stop signs, right? Those stop signs now face 103rd to try and slow down traffic, because that's one of the, probably, she left, but close to 111th is the next way to get over from Foster from Harold. I don't know the exact streets. But with that being said, people fly down there all the time, blow that stop sign. You don't have sidewalks over there. You have people that are in wheelchairs that are in the middle of the street. So, once again, not you guys, right? You guys aren't going to be responsible for the infrastructure in the neighborhood, but it's a problem. So when I'm leaving for work at 5 in the morning and it's pitch black and there's people just wandering down the street, first off, I'm careful as shit and I don't speed. So, you know, great. But not everyone else is. People are flying down that street. Yeah, I mean, she hit on everything else. I think, you know, what concerns me is I'll be at work and I'll get a text message because, you know, she gets off of school. She takes the dogs out and she's like, hey, you know, there's a drunk guy going to the Safe Rest Village. Clearly lives there. I see the guy come and go. I mean, he's pretty new there. And he literally will stop and just stare at her as she's walking. Stop and stare. I got it on cameras. If you want, I can send you videos daily. I can send you weekly. You know, this 2 a.m.
That's the real issue for me.
Yeah.
Summers are the worst. Winter is great. I love it when it's cold because no one's outside, right? I can't sleep. I can't sleep over the summer. I wake up at 4:30. I work 12-hour days and I come home and my neighborhood's shit. I'm sorry if I'm a NIMBY, but I'm dealing with it everywhere, and then I come home and the city decides to put it there and now you want to double it? Fuck you guys. Seriously. No, seriously.
So thanks for making that clear.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else that had? Okay, yes, Crystal, and then back to.
I just wanted just a little bit to, this kind of advocates for the Safe Rest Village. So, and this is because we have mutual clients that we work with. So I actually have a staff member right now who went through the Safe Rest Village, and she's a staff member because she went through the Safe Rest Village. She's somebody that for the last 3 years, I have probably 5 times a year got her this close to detox, and she just leaves. She just leaves. And so she finally got a chance to get into the Safe Rest Village, where she got a little bit of stability. She got food in her belly. She wasn't worrying about surviving on a daily basis. And so she came out and asked if she could volunteer at first. And then we got to start her on an internship, and then we just hired her full time. And so now she'll start working towards a peer support role and going back and doing the same work. The same thing, this morning I sat with somebody for 15 minutes who scrolled through her phone showing me the pictures of her beautiful new apartment. She just come out of Urban Alchemy at Safe Rest Village. They've been out here for multiple years trying to move. She was always extremely embarrassed because she knew the impact she was putting on the neighborhood. And so they just got housed. So there are real things happening over there, and that's not at all to dissolve what's happening on your street. And so I'm thinking through this good neighbor agreement, and we all work together, that we can make this model successful if they're willing to now collaborate and work together with us.
Sure. And not to, I'll rein my language in. No, it's not lost on me, right? in theory, there's a lot of great things happening,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, the problems need to be mitigated for what's being brought to the neighborhood.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a very bad start to not have been in from the beginning, and that always makes it a lot harder. I think that I've seen Hendrick's commitment to making sure the good neighbor agreements are actually collaborative. And I think this is the only way it works if you all work together. And I'm sorry, I just have to say, Crystal, I came to your fundraiser last year, and your organization is just amazing. And yeah, I don't know if you know what the dinners they do in Lentz Park, but they're trying to get out to. But I just had to do a shout out because you see people doing this incredible work, and I get how frustrated you are. Totally. Okay, I lost track of hands, so yes. Okay, no, I'm sorry, it was Sharon.
Sharon.
That are in
This
there.
is just not, I'm just skipping it a little bit on this topic shortly. Somebody made the comments, and I think it was you, that there's no sidewalks. And the lighting in the sidewalks, and what about our people that are handicapped?
Right.
Now, these people are out there, and there's no sidewalks, not good light, but if they are out there, some of these people that are on drugs are mentally ill. Why we have so many blows my mind, is they need coverage and care and helpful too. I have MS, but I got the good kind. I have relapsing remitting, and I go and I stand up for people and do all this jazz, but that's one area besides all this other jazz. I agree on everybody, all the topics, I'm right there with you. But then I just gotta throw in sometimes, somebody's gotta think of these people too, because if you're down in a wheelchair or something, and these people are some of them are pretty ugly.
Yeah.
There's one in Foster, when I go in the summer, my window's down for just a little bit. I don't leave my windows down very much because I had people come up and try to get in my car. But this one stands, and when the weather's nice, he goes, I need a sugar mama. That really pisses me off that he's standing there asking for money, but it's just another thing of the low-life situation that in Lentz that I agree that why are we getting like 3 layers deep of it? Can't you spread it around to some of the other ones that would help, some, around?
We would gladly share.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Let me respond to that. The truth is, this is happening in a lot of different parts of the city in terms of kind of trying to expand capacity. So Reedway is one part of that story. We're looking across the whole infrastructure. So currently within the city's portfolio, we have 9 shelters that we manage the sites for. 2 of those are set for expansion. One in Southwest Portland, our Multnomah Village, Multnomah Safe Rest Village in that area. And then the Reedway one. And the reason that those 2 are the ones that are targeted for increased capacity is because they're both on city-owned land, for one, and they both have additional land capacity that could be used to expand the Safe Rest Village with, relative to building new sites, lower barriers, lower cost to be able to do that. Simultaneously, we're developing the new shelter that's going to accommodate both RVs as well as the tiny homes in North Portland Road. That'll be another large site. We're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 or so units at that location as well. So we are looking across the city and doing our best to try not to overwhelm any one neighborhood with the sheltering capacity, and recognizing all these issues that you're experiencing from the unsanctioned camping that's happening within your neighborhood. Other neighborhoods are experiencing that. We just know we need more shelter. We need more well-managed, well-staffed shelter with services and supports. To hear more of those stories like we heard from Crystal's colleagues, I think that's what we do this for, right? And we want to hear hundreds of those stories across the city, if not thousands.
I just want to make sure that it's heard from the community that it would be deeply disappointing to hear that this project is underfunded by the city. I've heard it's expensive from you now twice, Hendricks, in this one conversation and in different ways. And so what we're asking is that if you're going to invest in the infrastructure and bring the people, you need to be also monitoring more than the gate, because less than half a block is rock, outside of Reedway Safe Rest Village is a vacant lot. I've seen someone exit your gate, get with dragging a suitcase on wheels across the gravel parking lot, to over to this other, straight to setting her suitcase up and going into the bushes. Immediately upon exiting there was no question about where this person came from. I saw it from start to finish. Spent several minutes in the bushes and then came out. And so that's easy. That's low-hanging fruit. That's a half a block from your door. That's 50 feet from your gate. And so invest in the time and effort it takes to monitor things that could be attached to your, that could be in reference to your being there. And we just want to make sure that the city is seeking whatever funding is needed to uphold these processes effectively without relying 100% or 70% on the feedback of neighbors who are also lived experiences. That's free to you. That's and we're paying taxes, so you're welcome. But just making sure that, like I said, I understand the municipalities and the layers, but just you can't congregate that many people and then let the doors fall off. So.
Thank you. Char.
Once upon a time, when we first started talking about safe rest villages, there was a discussion about security.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were going to give the neighborhoods that have these larger camps, 150,000 or whatever it was, for security around these safe rest villages. I think if you had security, real security, that would address a lot of these issues that people are having. And I don't know what happened to that. It sounds like there isn't any security.
It's definitely a theme tonight.
Looks like.
I can talk about the historical part of it, and that is Char. I've been in the Safe Rest Village the entire time.
Yes, you have.
We have never talked about providing security. I think we've talked about outreach teams with the larger sites, and that's what they're going to talk about. But there's a difference there, right? Outreach teams are going to engage with folks on their behavior that they're having in the neighborhood and try to connect them with resources.
I'm talking about security, actual security.
That
was something that Urban Alchemy supposedly provided in San Francisco.
I think there's a
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
sorry, I just want to say that, but go ahead.
Urban Alchemy, and maybe, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah.
I'm just saying
So-
security-wise.
So we're not security. We call ourselves safety and service when we go out into the community and engage with folks. We have a very effective engagement model that I think far surpasses the security outfit. And we have actually taken contracts from security firms. We manage the security for UC Hastings, for Supreme, for WeWorks, and for other businesses, because the security around those companies didn't work. So security is observe and report. They observe something and they report it, and that's all they do. They don't interact with folks on the street, and they don't even know how to interact with folks on the street. But because of our hiring model, we do. And so we go and negotiate for these spaces. We go out and talk to folks and we say, hey, we're trying to make this a safe neighborhood for the community, for children if it's around a school, for just everybody. And we're asking that you not engage in these negative behaviors or drug dealing or drug use. And we're pretty effective at it. And we've been doing this around the Clinton Triangle, which is a pretty big site. And it's been very effective. There are some hard cases that come in and camp out, and we go out and talk to them and then post them, and then they're removed. But as Hendrik said, they come back like a week later and move back in, because like underneath bridges are desirable spots when it's raining out, that kind of thing. But as far as the negative behavior goes on in the community around that site, it's improved immensely. And if you guys had the opportunity to talk to the community group in that area, or the community folks in that area, they would tell you the same thing I'm telling you, that when we go out and engage, the community actually improves.
So are there plans to do more community engagement for this site?
Yeah, so let me speak to that. So when we think about these larger sites, so when we start talking about 100 units or more than 100 units, that service increases as well. And to your point around don't underfund it, I agree with you. We can't underfund it. The reason this is working and helping people move into housing is because it's a robust staffing model. It just is, and that's what works. And it's the same when we talk about these larger units. We do need to invest more in outreach, and we agree with what you're saying. about that. And so that's part of what we want to work through in the Good Neighbor Agreement negotiations, but also when we're negotiating the new task order with Urban Alchemy. What is that staffing that Urban Alchemy is going to require in order to make this site successful for participants, for the neighborhood? And so that's exactly what we want to look at, and I agree with you. That's really important with these larger sites when we have more people in a space.
Additionally, on top of that, you know, we agree that it's not up to you all to, we want Urban Alchemy and ourselves to maintain the site itself. However, we do always appreciate when people let us know what's going on, so that Shelter Services email on that card, please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm the one who answers those emails. I'm a real person. I got your email today, actually. Thank you. Like, I appreciate knowing those things, and I can follow up on those things as well as on top of all the work we try and do internally to make sure that that's not necessary yet. But it is helpful. So.
And the daffodils.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by the statement that this is a model that works when we've been hearing that it isn't working, but there's going to be more people and then it's going to work. I'm just confused about that. And the second piece of this is, I wasn't in the conversation, but there was a conversation on the other side of the room before this gathering started, when I heard somebody say, we've tried calling Urban Alchemy and gotten no answer. Mm-hmm. So there's something that's not working in this explanation.
I heard two questions there, so I'll try to address both. First, as far as a model that works or doesn't work, we are seeing success stories and not just at small numbers. This is all very new. Like, a lot of these sites just opened in July of last year. So like, there's been a big learning curve, and it takes time to make connections with other community groups and housing. So the tough thing with this challenge is you might see the same 3 people in your neighborhood being unproductive and doing things that make you uncomfortable, while we're working with 60 other people or 80 other people, and not all of them will be successful. Some will leave the site because we can't keep them there. We don't want to keep people against their will, of course not. So they have a choice, and sometimes people are ready for solutions and changing their patterns, and sometimes people aren't. So we're juggling a population that's extremely variable, and we get some stories that we hear where we get success stories, and we're really excited about that. And that's what we're focusing on doing, is pumping up those numbers as much as we can and helping the people that are ready for help. But we're still going to see for a long time in our futures people that aren't ready, aren't there yet, are a nuisance sometimes to others. And I think it's important to say not everybody that's homeless is a nuisance, but some are. And it's really hard to be like, well, I see these people doing this stuff. And it's like, well, we tried clearing them a bunch of times. Legally, we can't keep people off the street if we don't have enough beds. So I'm just sharing this because it's very complex, but what we're seeing is good numbers, promising outcomes. And so what we're trying to do is emphasize that. And so far, we're happy with what we're seeing. We're hoping to see more of it. If a year from now we're not seeing those success stories and those numbers, then the sites aren't working. If they don't work, then we can't keep them for a long period of time. So
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Thank you. I've got the follow-up from you, and then back. Thank you for.
I don't think I expressed myself clearly enough. The model that I was referring to was what you said from Urban Alchemy about safety and security. Working. You do a really good job of it. Well, where is that really good job of it?
And so clarification, I heard the same thing, and
I misheard. Sorry.
and what I heard was that there haven't been the exact same services coming to this location as there are at Clinton Triangle, which is you were referring to what's going on at Clinton Triangle, and then I heard you say 100 or more is sort of the threshold where you're going to be able to put more resources in through Urban Alchemy to do more of the outreach. And I'm also hearing tonight talking about partnerships that might help outreach, but that's what I heard. I heard the same confusing thing, but then I also heard it where it made some sense. Plus I want to say, I hear it's not working for whom, how, right? It's not working for the neighbors. That's really clear. The noise. I do think there's solutions to so much of those things, so many of those things. Some of the things are obviously out of our control, but I've worked on a lot of good neighbor agreements over time and I've done it with people who are doing social services, and I've done it with bars. And noise is an issue that we can manage. I've got a question back here, and then.
What are the qualifications for getting into a safe rest village?
So,
Can I tag on to that question? Is there a place where we can see what an inhabitant of the Safe Rest Village might see, what's available to them, what, you know what I mean? Like, we don't really even know what any of that criteria or metrics or requirements are. So I'm sure that would be part of the good neighbor piece that you would put together, but it'd be great to have a location where we can go to find that information.
And maybe where they come from.
That's not really very nice.
No, I mean, as far as if they're coming from downtown.
Yeah, but
to Lentz, instead of from Lentz to Lentz.
You can't always track
I
those
don't
things
think
with
that's
that
public.
population. I just got to say.
You wouldn't want someone tracking you that way, so I
I
think
just don't want.
it's privacy issues.
I just don't want people from rich areas or downtown.
Nobody's giving anybody buses.
And using Lentz as their
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think we can restrict where people go because this is America and people can go where
No,
they want to go.
I'm not saying restrict where they go. I'm saying that use the shelters.
There's federal laws that
There's privacy issues.
No. So there's federal laws that say you can't discriminate based on where somebody's coming from for sheltering, right? Like we cannot say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not from here. You can't be housed here, or you can't be sheltered here. So yeah, we have to be very careful when it comes to fair housing, fair treatment stuff.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm just saying, what I hear is that when there's an event downtown, they get moved. Where do they get moved to?
Well,
here.
I'm going to try.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to try to cap it. Can I just speak to that?
Yeah.
One, when we're asking people to move, we're not telling them where to go, and so people are choosing to where they're going to go. But one important thing I did want to share is, with a good neighbor agreement and what we're proposing, we do plan on doing engagement in the neighborhood as part of this process. There still will be people that have come from wherever they've come from because we can't control that, but we do commit to working together to engage in individuals, especially ones that are very close to the site, and people that are commonly causing destruction or challenges for you and where you live. I'll be able to hear that and then look at the city's resources to say, hey, can we have a unit go take a look at this campsite, because we're hearing a lot.
My concern is more that they're being directed here. If they're not being directed here, then my concern is not.
That wouldn't happen that I know of.
Yeah.
I do have just a quick one. So, sorry, I don't know your name, but in some defense of Urban Alchemy, when I've called them, I don't know if other people have, but if you leave them a message, they do typically get back to you. So I've left them messages with a phone number, and I've gotten pretty good response from them. And I know that there's some other people that I've gotten response from here too. So people here are listening.
Well, and whatever collation of this information, we're hearing there's a lot of resources. If there's like a central location for us as a Reedway neighborhood, or I guess that's what this one's called, right? The Reedway SRV. From the Reedway perspective, a place, a website, a page,
There is the Safe Rest Village website.
Okay.
We update it all the time. We have a page specifically for Reedway that we will update with construction information as we have it. Whatever questions you may have, if there's other information you'd love to see on it, please let us know. We're in the process of translating it into 5 languages too. So please, I've worked really hard on it, so please read it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And let us know what's missing from it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll update it. And also, I just want to say, as somebody and Laudie's been in this boat with me too. Like, it is so wonderful to engage with you all, and I want to personally apologize that this hasn't happened at an earlier time. So, recognizing that there's no fixing that at this point, but I really hope that we can continue learning more about what you all are experiencing, especially the people that are living right around it. So.
Can I re-ask my question?
Yes, thank
What are
you.
the qualifications for getting in?
Right. How do you-
So we're what's called a low barrier village. We take people just with any kind of hang-ups that they may have. That means mental health, drug addiction. We're trying to get folks off the street and then into housing. And so if we put up barriers, like, you know, if they have drug addiction like a lot of these other villages, then those folks are just going to be left on the streets and in your neighborhoods. So we took another approach, and we're just letting anybody that wants to receive services come in.
Is there a waiting list or something?
Yes.
So people sign up?
No.
No waiting list.
No waiting list.
There's no queue.
So there's a referral process.
Yeah, referral process.
That we work with. The larger sites, it changes a little bit with the outreach teams and everything, but there is a referral process. And what it is that there's not enough services in Portland, right? That's clear, right? There's 6,000 plus homeless individuals. There's about 2,700 shelter beds on a high count, right? So that in any one night, there's 3,300 people sleeping on our streets needing services, right? And so when teams are engaging with folks, the goal is that they can direct them to services that are available now. Because continuing to put people on waiting lists just means that they're waiting, right? And so what we do is when a spot becomes available in the villages, we work with our outreach teams or our navigation teams or that system and the reason why I'm being a little bit vague is because it changes as it gets bigger to a more robust system. But as it currently is with the Safe Rest Village, is that it goes and it gets split up between different teams engaging with folks living on the streets, and then they refer folks in. And there's no criteria. There's no like, oh, you're this or you're meeting these things or something like that. They're like, I'm engaging with somebody that's looking for is looking for a bed in a shelter. I'm offering them this spot. They are referred and get that spot, and they know when they show up that they have a bed there.
It doesn't matter if they're on drugs or whatever.
No.
You don't.
It's a low barrier to entry. That doesn't mean they're not held to expectations in the space. We still have to maintain a safe environment for folks.
Maybe that's
Yep, okay, I'm sorry, but yeah.
Thank you. So I have a question back to gentleman. I didn't get your name. I heard that your team came from California, or your team come from
I came from California.
So I see the video last night from LNA sent to me. This is why I came. I question that what you in that part, how many years or I don't know how many months, what you think back there, is that succeed? How many percent that it get good outcome to help those people in San Francisco? Now you came down here, I live here 4 decades. 4 decades. I see a lot of change. I see the mayor, I see all kind of officers try to work on this land neighborhood. I live close by land, I drove by land, I go home, I go through land. That's why I try to help land. I'm not part of land, but I just come because they say it's a public. So I guess I just speak for land people, not for myself. But I'm concerned that if your team come in, it's gonna help succeed this. Also, all of you, thank you again, all of you that do all this service. We all try to get this thing to go better for everybody, right? But my question, all of you now, back to all of you, when we build this site, what if it's not working? Is this site, what we gonna do with it if it's not working at all? My question now.
So
I know it's not too far away to answer it.
So we came up with a model.
It's not working the way that we try to do. What is not working?
I can
talk about it.
Is your question, how do you guys measure success?
Yeah,
I'll talk about it from the city
I know
side,
the question is
and
not.
then you can take it from your side. So we want to make sure it's working, right? Nobody on our team, and Brandy can speak to this too if she would like, wants to see us just create a system where we put people into a shelter and then they get tired, like they end up just staying there forever or end up leaving it because it doesn't work out, because that only erodes trust in the system, making it less likely that they're going to take advantage of services later, which means that they're less likely to come off the street, right? We want to create a system to where people are able to come in, engage in services, and have a safe and secure place, right? And get the resources they need to move on to housing. We do that we look at exit destinations, and we meet with Urban Alchemy once a week. I personally meet with Urban Alchemy once a week on all their shelters to discuss what's going well, what's not going well, things that might need improvement, things that don't, things that maybe we could do different, right? How we can engage with somebody different and all that stuff. So we are actively learning and trying to make it better all the time. So as far as like, what if it's not working? Whenever we identify things that aren't working, we do what's within our power to try to change that stuff all the time. And I meet with Jeff and each of the directors once a week, if not more, to discuss things like that and go over, what happens if this happens and things like that. Like, what's going well, what's not going well. So that's, what if it's not working? I mean, like, our goal is we're going to keep looking at it and trying to shift it and all that stuff.
I have been trying for many decades, and
Yeah.
it's not been work. The only thing I see is to have to get rid of the drug.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all wish there was no drug addiction, for sure.
I'm sorry.
No apology. Thank you so much for your contribution. Okay.
Just an added, to throw in something is, we were talking about security. I think that is a really important issue because even though some of the people are getting in and you're helping them and everything, I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there, and it's a limit of, you've got to stop it. You can't let nutsos go on and attack people that are trying to help you. I think they have to do individual stuff or security on that person in background, because it's awfully dangerous to get one person in there that's, not all together and go wacko on them. So I think that's important issue with that many people involved in your village or your, whatever you're all calling them, is to have security that the other people feel like there's, that's
So typically, our villages are very calm and serene. They're not.
I want to go live there.
They're not wild places that you might imagine. They're very calm. And
Well, I've never.
There's not a lot of.
I've never seen anything like I've seen on. I'm sorry that we even bought a house up there. My husband's from Sherwood and he hates living over here. I was brought up in Southeast Portland and I lived in Gresham for one time, but that was nice. But it's just the part that's so much. I feel it's scummy. It's dirty. It's everybody knows where you're from. And again, I'm embarrassed to have somebody come visit me because they come around the corner and they're all in the green field, all the shopping carts and shit all over, up and down Knapp Street. I have to ask them to come up and turn on 105th and come down that so it kind of protects them from not going up Knapp Street, because it is scary up there. I mean, I'm telling you, it's scary. And come around, but so you feel that shame, you feel that embarrassment. My face is probably ready to blow up. My doctor has me on relax pills because I live in such, he says, why don't you get the hell out of there, Sharon? And it makes me feel bad. I've lived here my whole life. I'm 70 years old, and I feel in my heart I'm 42. I try to take care of myself. I've seen a lot and stuff, but I'm just ready to slam my head into the wall. Like you say, everybody's tried so hard, but it's like you said, it's not clicking. We're missing something that it's not working.
I think this is an attempt to try something different, and I get that it's not very quick, but that's what I keep hearing is this is like a pour the resources in, localize them, give people a second. Well, you were talking about the woman you talked to who you almost got her in off drugs like 5 times. She needed whatever they offered. So I do want to say I appreciate all of you so much, and we have gone way over, and I appreciate that as well. So it's 7:15. What I'd like to ask is there any question or comment you have not heard tonight? And then we can talk about next steps. Yes, Chuck.
There are 60 pods at Reedway. When their power went out, you moved them over to Clinton Triangle. How did you do that when all we ever hear is these places are all full? How did you get 60 more people into Clinton Triangle?
I have a I have a large building, and I use the upper story to house all.
So you had an outbuilding
So,
outside the
so
house?
during severe weather events, we're allowed to open certain spaces that wouldn't traditionally be like
Okay.
utilized, right? Understanding that we have to approach, this is not Safe Rest Village. I help with emergency sheltering all the time. Respecting, we need to make sure they're safe for like life safety and all that stuff, but we also have to rank what level of, what's the biggest safety concern at this moment. Having a whole bunch of people out in the cold is the #1 safety concern, and then you kind of have to move backwards from there. So there is a space at Clinton Triangle to where we were able to put a whole bunch of people, but it's not a really ideal space to keep people
So
in.
it wasn't pods, it wasn't
It wasn't-
empty
it wa-
pods?
no, it was not
That was
empty
my
pods.
concern, is you have 60 empty pods
Sorry,
over
yeah.
there?
It was a room a little bigger than this
Okay.
space here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's tight.
But it was heated, and that's
Yeah.
what mattered in that
I
moment.
think we need your number for the house people that lost their power, because there were a lot of people in this neighborhood also lost power and were freezing to death.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
When I was here, we
Houseless
had,
neighbors that died.
yeah, when we had the big
Yeah.
storm 2
Yeah.
years ago, Mark and I, and my mom that was 97 was living with us, we had no power for 6 days.
I-
So that was really,
We
I'm
need to get
telling
hold of
you.
you.
No, I can tell you all the time, I've been helping with severe weather shelters for some years now. And I think it's, like I said, there's 3,300-ish more maybe
Right.
people on the streets. And the amount of resources we have to pour into trying to help all those people, just make sure they don't die in the cold, right? Are resources that we can't do for somebody that loses their power or somebody that, water line
Why
breaks or something.
not?
No, because we have to save those people's lives. Like, we can't have 3,300 people on the street passing away, right? And so I hope, I think that's what we're here for. Our goal is that we can help create a system to move people into housing so that those emergency services can be utilized on, everyone, right? Instead of just basic life saving.
So why did the city pick up back on the street
Sorry.
at 20-some
That's the county.
In the meantime, can we also help them to feel that they're at home too? Because I hear a lot of yes, we're moving them, we're trying to move them to housing and that's wonderful, but can we also help them to feel at home and to feel, be respectful with the environment, teach them ownership too about their space and awareness. Because either if we are rich or poor or whatever, we all deserve the same conditions. Them and us too.
So that's a perfect segue, thank you so much. So I'm just gonna move and let Brandy and Hendrik say some last words. I do not want to forget to extra special thanks to Nancy from Ann Pilgrim Lutheran and for everything they did. And there was a big backup for staff getting here, and she set out most of the chairs for some friends. I just want to make sure that gets noticed right away. Thank you so much. We appreciate your hospitality. So now, if you want to say your final words.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate so much what you said, because I think living together in a community is part of that healing process, and it's so important to feel that acceptance and to feel a part of something. So I agree with you, and I want to continue that conversation. Which is really kind of, I think, the main point of what we want to say as we wrap up, is that this is the beginning of a conversation. We recognize that there's some frustration with how things have been managed in the past. We know that, we feel it, we want to change it. And this is the beginning of that process. I am hoping that we're going to have more conversations frequently moving forward, that we're going to come to a place where we are able to negotiate a good neighbor agreement that is positive and supportive for everybody in the neighborhood. And that is our hope. In terms of next steps, I believe we have some folks who have volunteered their time, their thoughts, their energy and experience to carry this conversation forward in the Good Neighbor Agreement discussions. We would like to also continue communicating with the wider community. I recognize that it's a big time commitment to give of yourself in this way, and that there are a lot of other people who are interested in staying in touch with the process as we move forward. So we commit to communicating more frequently about the process as it moves forward, both in terms of kind of the expansion efforts, but also the Good Neighbor Agreement discussions. So those pieces, I think, are probably the most critical for me to say right now. We will wrap up and share out some notes, sharing what we heard. I feel like we got to a really productive place today, and I'm so grateful for that. I feel like we have some concrete, tangible things to work on, and they seem doable to me. They really do. So thank you.
And Brandy, will you be following through with Urban Alchemy about some of the things that we heard
Sure.
before?
Yes.
And see what kind of immediate problem solving can happen as well?
And I will say that some of the Urban Alchemy colleagues were also listening in, and so they heard from the beginning as well.
Great.
I'm just gonna say thank you. Honestly. We
Thanks
appreciate
for
you.
listening to us.
Absolutely. If you haven't signed up and you want to, please do. I will send out an email once we have a chance to chat and see what next big updates there are, but the goal will be to start working together, and then you'll have my direct email as well once you hear from me. We'll start communicating.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, sorry, one last thing. Laudie, for anybody who wasn't able to attend in person but is interested in participating and carrying the conversation forward, what should they do?
So, for any of our folks on Zoom, if you were not able to be here today and were not able to sign up, you can email us at shelterservices@portlandoregon.gov. The link is on our website. Additionally, you can email me directly, Laudie.porter@portlandoregon.gov. Any of those ways. You can also leave us a voicemail at 503-823-1340. I check all of these things. I will be getting back to you very soon and working with Hendrik on that email as well. He and I will be collaborating on that process.
And thank you, and Laudie, could you put those addresses into the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that's it. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate you. Be safe on your way out.